right, guys, we're back with another episode. Today I have former school teacher with us. And Steve, I always start by giving everyone a compliment. When I called you the first time and asked you how much business you were doing, I did hit the mute button and question if you were a liar right afterwards. And then I think within a week of knowing you, you were like, hey, do you want to go to this conference in St. Louis? And I had no idea who you were yet, but I said yes. And I think in going to that conference, Katie and I took so much out of it of what we want to do differently. And I want to say thank you for that invite.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. Person that put on the conference still ask about, if we're working together and how it's going and if you've helped me grow my social media. And I was like, well, I had 0 followers and I had 0 social media. So we've definitely grown since then.
Yeah. So for everyone who doesn't know you, where did you start at? What was your sport in high school and college?
So I played all sports growing up. Like we'd go, baseball games to go to a basketball tournament to football games, the whole 9 yards, every weekend, all during the week. But in high school, I played football, and then in college, I played football for a couple of years as well.
And at that time, were you going to be Steve, the NFL player? Like, was that kind of the goal?
Oh, mental mindset. Every high school player ever is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to the league.
What do they say? D1 dreams, D3 reality?
Yeah, I think I wasn't quite D3 reality. I played a D1 AA or bull subdivision, whatever you want to call it now, but a smaller D1. So I think when I first realized that I was not D1 level was when I was standing, like I got game tickets to go to like Notre Dame, Michigan, a bunch. So we went and sat on the 50-yard line, went down the field before the game, was in the locker room, all that kind of stuff. But I remember like sitting there watching the Michigan linebackers like warm up, and I was like, are these the receivers? And they're like, no, those are the linebackers. I was like, oh.
They run that fast?
They run that fast. They're that tall and they're that big. I was like, Jesus.
But you kept playing, right?
Yeah, I played in college. I played in high school, and then I kept having injury problems, and I was like, this isn't worth it. Playing on a Saturday afternoon in front of like 400 people just wasn't quite the same as Friday Night Lights when you're, played at Archbishop Hoban, sold out games, 6,000 plus fans. Then you're, playing in front of 400 people.
Goes a little downhill.
The excitement level, the adrenaline just quite isn't the same playing on a noon game. Maybe a little bit hungover, just not really. Maybe. I think once I realized I was doing that, I thought it was definitely over.
So did you still have goals of like a career in mind, or were you so focused on football that you're like, I guess I have to get this degree to play football?
Yeah, I wanted to go play football. The degree was kind of like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So like everyone's like, oh, you could coach college, high school football. So I was like, oh, I'll get a degree in education. I'll coach college football. I'll coach some sort of football after I get done playing.
So football was always the goal.
Yeah, I wanted to be a college football coach, a pro football, some kind of coach. I didn't know if I'd ever make it to the league at that point. So I was like, okay, I could be a coach. I could maybe teach some classes at the university, whatever. So I got into education.
And so as you were doing education, did you ever imagine like, I'll be Steve the teacher forever?
When I was doing it in the beginning, no. Like when I was freshman, sophomore year, I was like, I never saw myself as teaching for 35 years and then retiring and all that stuff. I just assumed I would coach college football and have my degree.
But so then when did you start teaching?
2013, the year I graduated in December of 2013, it would have been December 2012. So I had 6 months. I got a full 6-month long-term sub position right out of college. So I was teaching language arts in a city called Manchester, Ohio.
And then you transferred to where, Brunswick?
Yeah, I got a full-time job in Brunswick. And I knew I always wanted to buy a duplex as soon as I graduated. So as soon as I found out I was going to have a teaching job there, I found a city close by that had a bunch of duplexes called Lakewood, Ohio.
Before it was cool?
Before I always call it house hacking before it was cool. I didn't know what house hacking was. It's first time someone told me house hacking, I said, what's that? And then they explained it to me, and I was like, I've already done that a few times.
And so what is house hacking if someone doesn't know?
Yeah, so house hacking is basically like you buy a duplex, a 3 or a 4 unit, and you live in one of the units and rent out the other units. But I was renting out the rooms in my units to my friends and also renting out the other unit.
And like this was your first little taste of cash flow.
Yeah, I was living for free, making a couple $100, enough to go get some beers,
And at the time, you also had a goal of becoming an agent, correct?
Yeah, so after I bought the first duplex, I was like looking at other duplexes, ran into Mario from Local, and talked me into getting my license. I did some wholesaling as well.
You wholesaled at one point.
I think I've wholesaled 3 houses in my life now.
Okay.
So I don't know what you want to call that. A side hustle?
I'd say
Dabbled.
You dabbled a little bit.
It was like over a year period. I wholesaled 3 houses.
And what were those assignment fees looking like?
At the time, you really didn't know what you were going to get because I was doing it through Great Lakes. So the fees were always a little bit different. I will say it's not as lucrative. I'd make like $2 or $3 grand when they had a 10 grand assignment fee. So
you're making some, but not a lot.
I was only bringing the deal. I wasn't bringing the buyer. And I think they broke it up as in someone gets this much and the buyer gets this much and then something for the middle of the company.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't as lucrative as most wholesaling if you do it on your own.
But you're teaching all the while this is going on.
Yeah, I was teaching and buying, bought a turnkey single family in Maple Heights off of Mario. And then I bought another duplex.
And Mario's talked about it on this podcast. So was that a turnkey property?
Mario. He did all the things that make it look great, right? So I saw the new cabinets, the roof, the floors were refinished, paint. I think he painted the tiles in the bathroom.
So there were a few cosmetic touches that you wouldn't have done.
And at that point, I also thought everything always worked when you looked at it. The furnace and the hot water tank both went out within 6 months.
Maybe he owes you a glass of wine now at the winery.
I'm going to hit you up for that, Mario. I might take the whole case, dude.
So you didn't get discouraged, though?
No, I mean, I had a guy I met at Home Depot when I had my first maintenance issue at my duplex that I became friends with.
You just met a guy at Home Depot? Or
I was trying to put a hot water tank in my Ford Focus.
And he saw what was going on? He's like, oh, this poor guy.
So I'm on West 117th, right? I have my buddy with me. He's like 6'7", my roommate that pays to live there, right? And me and him are both trying to put this hot water tank in the Ford Focus. Not working, right?
Trunk or back seat?
Trunk.
Okay.
Because you could put down the middle seat, so we thought we could slide her in. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't quite fit into the trunk. So we're thinking, all right, we bungee cord it to the roof. And this guy's watching. He rolls up. He's like, hey, where you guys go? And I said, oh, right around the corner. And then I had this idea that he was going to steal my hot water tank, right? Because you're on West 117th in Cleveland. Some of the highest crime rate along with Steelyard in the nation go down at those Home Depots.
Hey, I've lost my catalytic converter not far from there.
Yeah, mine's probably being stolen right now. Yeah. So anyways, so my buddy rides with his buddy, and then he rides with me.
Okay.
So we swapped friends.
So there's some accountability in the equation.
Some accountability. You're not going to take the 6'7" guy with you. You don't want to kidnap a guy at 6'7", big dude. You know. I mean, I guess they could have just robbed us both or killed us. I mean, I don't know at that point, right? So anyways, we swapped people. We drove a mile. We got the hot water tank in the house, and we're going to put this hot water tank. This is the duplex I first bought. And I'm like, all right, sweet. He's like, hey, I think just your thermocoupler's bad. So he swaps out my thermocoupler, charges me $25. I think I'm all in for $50 on the repair. And I'm like, I got this hot water tank. What do I do now?
And so you hired your first contractor at that point.
Yep, right out of the Home Depot parking lot.
And so when you're doing this, are you?
I gave him a tip as well. I gave him a $10 tip. Please account for that.
All right, contractors, he's still hiring. So did you have ideas of I want to do a lot of real estate at this time, or are you still I think this is something I want to do?
Yeah, at that point I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy so many units that I can't handle my teaching career anymore, and I would have to stop teaching, right? Or I'd get to a point where I could retire and whatever. But I was gonna keep buying multifamilies and living in them until I have 10, 15, 20 units. At that point, I was like, all right, I should then be able to have enough cash flow. The idea took a little bit of a side turn when my fiance did not want to keep doing that.
Yeah, how do I convince Katie to house hack for 5 years? That might be a pro tip we could give.
Well, first off, don't get pregnant.
Okay.
So that would be one, because I don't think you're going to do it with kids, right?
Fair.
Moving around a lot, you always acquire more shit. I think the other thing is you got to do it more rapidly, and you have to do it in nicer areas.
Okay.
Right? So every year you got to do one.
So if the house we're going to take a little bit of a hit, area's got to go a little up. That's what you're telling me. Because we're living in a duplex. It's not our own place.
It's fine. You can live in a duplex, but I think if you live in a nicer area, it's easier to be like, oh, I like this area, do it for a year, and then immediately go. So before you guys tie the knot, I don't know if you guys are, but if you're planning on that, you're going to want to do one in her name and do one in your name before you officially tie the paperwork.
Gotcha.
So then you each got one.
And the IRS isn't going to yell at me if I do that.
Because you're not married yet.
Fair. Okay. So you did 1 year of house hacking or 2?
I bought it in 2013, and I bought my next one in like 15 or 16.
So how many did Alex do with you?
Alex has lived in 3 of the 4 units in the 2 house hacks.
Okay, so she's put her time in.
She moved in 1 month with me and my 2 roommates. And then at that time, we knew everyone was moving out, but either way. So she lived there with a month with the 3 of us. So that was always
And you made it through the month. She said,
made it through the month. All was good. And then we moved into the downstairs unit when he moved out. Me and her renovated that place. She even pitched in on the renovations, labor and money. Wow. What a great house hack. My girlfriend was killing it.
And so at what point do you start entering the flip game? Because I think that's what everyone knows you for now, right?
Yeah. So I was doing some burrs and stuff like that, and then I ended up selling a few of them.
Okay.
Kind of like we did well on them after I've already owned them for a little bit. So I was like, wow, we could really do this.
Yeah.
So then I started looking for houses to flip.
And how did you do that?
Just instead of burring them, I just sold them.
I mean, how did you start looking for them? Were you going to networking events? Were you befriending people?
Yeah. So I try to be the easiest buyer to work with is my stitch.
Yeah.
I try to make sure like wholesalers, like they send the contract, I sign it, they know they're getting paid. The only reason that house doesn't close is because there's some sort of effed up title stuff going on. They can't close it.
And it's not your fault.
Not my fault.
Yeah.
Effed up title stuff meaning like that person owes like 50 grand in child support, has a couple other tax liens, and they're selling the house for 30 grand. Obviously, it's never going to clear all of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's the only time those things don't close is when there's a titling issue.
Yeah. So how did your teaching career come to an end?
So teaching career came to an end. What really pushed me over the edge, or like when my last day was? What are you asking?
Let's start with what pushed you over the edge and when was your last day?
All right, so my wife is pregnant with our first kid. We both teach in the same district, so that's how we met. Both coached basketball together and taught. So she's like 8 months pregnant, maybe 8.5 months pregnant. We both get reduction in force letters, so that's a layoff letter. Like you're both like on the chopping block if said levy doesn't pass.
So before you get this letter, you're just worried about being a dad. That's like your main stress.
Yeah, we're doing some flips. We're making some money. Like life's all good. Got my rentals still.
And at this point, you're not imagining quitting yet.
I mean, I always had those dreams of quitting, right?
Like Tony's going to quit his job, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like I'm going to do it, but like nothing like
There
really,
was no date.
There was no date. There was like, oh, wow, this is going great. I'm flipping a house or 2 a month, making good money, got my rentals. I'm like, okay, great. Maybe we were doing 3 a month. Like, I don't know, but I was pretty busy too,
Yeah.
you know, like full-time teaching job, coaching, kid on the way.
And property's moving. Even though not a lot, but still.
Property's moving.
You're doing flips, right?
I'm saying we were selling 2 or 3 a month. You know
Which
what I'm
is
saying?
significant.
Yeah. I mean, especially having a full-time job. Yeah. There was a lot of Home Depot phone sales in the hallway.
Yeah. Yeah, and how did you, and if you didn't balance it, tell everyone, what was it like the last few months teaching? Were you more Steve the teacher or maybe Steve the real estate guy who has a classroom?
Has a classroom full of kids.
Which one was it?
Oh, it's definitely Steve the real estate guy that had a classroom full of kids.
Yeah. So you already were kind of feeling like that was pulling you away from the teaching.
Yeah, definitely. And, 8.5 months pregnant, my wife's walking around handing out vote for the levy papers. If the levy doesn't pass, both of us are chopped. You know what I'm saying? So I was frustrated. I was, upset with the situation because we're pretty deep into our teaching careers at that point. 8 and 6 years. I mean, that's been there that long.
And a lot of times teachers are playing the long game. They're waiting for the retirement. They're waiting for the salary to bump up year over year over year. So in your head, you're kind of invested into this longer vision, right?
Which kind of screwed everyone with the huge inflation.
Yeah.
Because inflation outpunted any salary increases the teachers were getting.
Yeah. And so why did you not decide to go all in on, hey, we need to vote for the levy? Why did you take it in your own hands to be like, I think a different move should be happening?
Well, I mean, I still want everyone to vote for Levy. I live in the school district.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for it. But I was like, man, I really need to control my own destiny 100%, where I'm not controlling it now, obviously.
So do you think in hindsight that was a blessing that you got that letter?
Yeah. I didn't even, I took them out of the mailbox. My wife didn't even see them.
Like, what was the first emotion when you saw it? Were you like, fuck, this is happening?
Upset, rage, sad.
In that order?
Just like tears. Like.
And so, like, what
Salty.
was your first thought? Is it like everything's going to hell, this is going to ruin it? Or was it like, I need to step up now? Or was it both a little bit?
I mean, I already had somebody say we were doing flips. So I wasn't like, oh, my life's ruined, like life ruined, or you know what I'm saying? But I was like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
I can't just like chill and like let this happen. I've already started something though, so it was kind of like, all right, let's just really invest into this.
So what did that look like? So you get the letter. How did your actions change?
So I got the letter. I said, hey, I'm going to take unpaid time the rest of the year to hang out with the family and kids. So that took me all the way from April 2021 was my last day teaching, like April 15th or something. Last day teaching, went into the summer, took like 2 unpaid weeks because my paternity leave ran up. I continued that unpaid paternity leave for a whole year. The district let you do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, he might come back.
Yeah. I still had a position in the district.
But you might have been on Facebook saying, I'm buying houses right now.
100%. Still watching my kid a couple days a week. Still working. So the year we flipped 30 some houses, I was part-time at home with my kid.
And this was 2021, right?
Yeah. So I think we did like 36, 37 houses, something like that. I was part-time watching my kid. So it was 2 days a week at home with my kid, and then 3 days, or maybe it's vice versa, either way, something like that. And that's 3 days at work doing all my stuff.
So do you think that forced you to start implementing systems and like actually have a team because like you're like, I know I have to be a dad on these days?
Yeah. I mean, I answer my phone a lot still, but I hired my little brother. It was basically just no idea what was going on. Just would go to job sites and take pictures and move stuff around and show up for utility turn-ons. But it was like a phone call every 10 minutes. It was sending pictures every job site, just like see what was going on.
So how did you know to get this many flips going? Because you talk about it like, oh, and then we did 30. There are some people who've been doing this 10 years who still haven't done 30. So like, how were you able to get that many done, even in the early ages of doing it?
Finding deals or finishing deals?
All of it. I mean, how did it get to that number? Because I think that's what people are curious about.
Yes, I mean, like you got one, you finish it, you conservative with your funds, and you have more money to buy more houses, right?
Yep.
You have multiple crews. So now I had like 2 crews, and then you finish that round, and now you have more money to do more flips at once. You just keep staving the money up to put back in. I think what happens to a lot of people are they make money on their first couple flips, and they go buy something. Like I'm driving around in a Lambo now.
So you saw the game is I'm buying these assets, I'm adding value to it, and then taking a profit to then rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Why did you not get the shiny object syndrome and go buy the Lambo?
I just 2 months ago, I just sold. So I bought my first truck in 2016. Just sold it in 2024, beginning of the summer.
So you think maybe growing up in Barberton, Ohio had something to do with that?
Right. And I bought a stripped down model of a Ford XL edition.
XL.
Nothing fancy. Not even the XLT. Like XL's like the tradesman. Just the bottom of the barrel. Like just lucky to have a reverse cam on it.
So do you think that that's helped you, is not having this, I need to have all the shiny objects?
Yeah, I think also just being focused on my kids, my family, not worrying about I need to go jet off into Florida. And yeah, everyone wants a Florida house, but I don't,
Yeah. So then so how many crews have you gone through? Because I know a lot of people struggle with hiring talent, right?
how many crews have I went through?
Like how many of you hired and how many of you fired?
I have no idea.
More than 5?
This week?
Like why do you think you have that skill set? Because I know a lot of people, they'll work with the same shitty crew for 3 years and just like let it be. I don't know why. I'm saying like how did you come in with this approach? Like did you have some leadership experience that made you think, oh, I need to be moving through more crews?
I mean, if you have more houses, more openings, you can try more crews.
Yeah.
So I tried a ton of crews. I mean, and a lot of people will finish a project, and I just know it's not for me to go back to them.
So you would let them finish and just not rehire?
Yeah. If they're moving, like, yeah, I want you done in 2 to 4 weeks. It took you 3 months to do my flip, but you were there working. okay, we just know the next one's not for you.
Yeah. Okay. And
That
so
happens to a lot of crews. Like they take too long on my flips. I'm not bringing them back.
how many contractors? Because we did the number for everyone watching. It's about 101 people per day are working on Steve's flips that are just active. So how many do you think it's been in total since you started real estate? Over 500 people, you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was funny because we had a contractor. He was in Home Depot the other day. He's like, I'm walking through Home Depot and I see 6 different groups of people that have a Yoke Properties shirt on here. And to prove the fact, on the way up here to do this with you, I stopped at Home Depot to use the restroom real quick. The two people waited at the pro desk to check out have a Yoke Properties shirt on.
And they had shrimp and lobster waiting for you. So why'd you pick Home Depot instead of Lowe's? I've been meaning to ask you that.
Just what I started off with using, and it always seemed to be centralized. And they've been awesome to work with as far as helping the business grow. I always joke that I wouldn't be able to do all the things I do without the great relationships I built with them. And that's crazy to think because they're a $1 billion company. Why are they having a relationship with me? But I feel like they do at a local level really try to help me out.
And even when I've been around you, they always the names of the managers, the stores.
Yeah.
So how much money have you spent in 1 year at a Home Depot or Home Depots combined?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like 6 or 7 main Home Depots around Akron, right? So I think the most we spent at the store last year is a little over $500K. But in totality, I think we were at 1.3 last year. We're already at $1 million this year, and we're in July. So I mean, it'll be close to $2 million at Home Depot.
So because I think people should know this. As you've scaled, how much nicer do they treat you? Like, what are some of the things Steve gets access to that maybe if I walk in, I'm not getting?
I don't know. I was at the I don't know.
They drop stuff off for you, right?
Oh yeah, deliveries. Last time I had to go into Home Depot and actually I needed to buy like a large amount of items. They said, "Oh," and I walked in the produce wave. They said, "You need help?" I said, "Actually, can I have 2 guys with a cart help me load up?" And so they grabbed 2 carts. I had my cart. I took a picture of my list. I handed it to them, and I was doing this part of the list, and they were doing that part of the list. And I was in and out of Home Depot in 10 minutes. I don't know.
Dang.
And I had a truck full of stuff. I couldn't even carry it all. I said, "Hey, we'll leave these here," and they just wrote it on a yoke, and they put the guy's name that was picking it up, and he came back and got them the next day. And they were just sitting to the side next to the pro desk.
Yeah. So the Home Depot relationship has got you here.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I went in the other day just to, I forgot what I even went in to talk about, but I was going in I had to get a faucet for like a flip. We were getting granite installed that day, and I was like, I'm driving by, I'll stop. So I grabbed donuts and dropped them off, and I grabbed this faucet.
Yeah, you seem to. This is like a compliment I'll give you. You seem to have more fun than most people at a higher volume. Like, why have you always been that way? Is it like Teacher Steve or Coach Steve?
What do you mean?
People
don't have fun in real estate?
I think some people don't have fun in real estate. Yeah.
I can see if you were getting your ass whooped, but if you're making money and doing deals, I don't care if you're doing 3 deals or 30 deals. I always look back on everything else as I wouldn't rather be doing anything else.
Yeah, because I think that's something you seem to genuinely like what you're doing right now.
Yeah, all day, every day. I don't miss work.
Yeah.
I go into my office building every day, and you'll see me emailing you or whatever at 5 a.m. in the morning all the way to 10 p.m. at night. There's emails going across the
How many
desk.
unread messages are we at right now?
On my phone?
Yeah. 1,300?
Probably 1,300 text messages. I know I'm north of 40,000 emails unread.
That hurts.
just text messages. I have 100 and I don't know how many voicemails.
So how do you, yeah, because you're the guy. So if someone's a wholesaler in Akron, they probably know Steve. So why have you?
Wait, if you're a wholesaler in Akron and you don't know Steve Yoak, Yoak Properties, please message me. I'll make your dispositions really easy.
Why did you take that approach? Because I thought that was interesting when we first got on a phone call. Like, obviously, a cool part of what you do is you provide turnkey properties to out-of-state investors who maybe they don't know enough about Cleveland. But you also were like, hey,
I don't touch Cleveland.
Akron, sorry. Hey, Akron.
There's a big difference.
Akron.
Big difference.
But the other thing is that you initially were like, hey, I get a lot of my business from wholesalers. I want some of my messaging to be catered towards them.
100%.
And what role do you think wholesalers play in real estate, but also just in the community? Because a lot of people don't know what a wholesaler is.
Yeah, so wholesalers are taking people that are in tough positions and getting them a quick cash offer, or someone that doesn't want to go through the hassle of listing on the MLS. They don't want to do any repairs. They don't want to deal with a realtor. They've had a bad experience, whatever it might be. That's usually the role a wholesaler fills.
So there's a distressed homeowner, maybe they're behind on bills or something happened where they need to move quickly.
There's a reason they want to move quickly usually.
And so this wholesaler is creating a relationship with them to find out, like, what do you need financially so that this makes sense for you to sell us your home, right? And then your goal as Steve is to come in, make sure that that wholesaler gets paid for the work they've done.
Yeah, 100%.
And then your goal is to then do what to that property?
Renovate it and then keep it as a rental or sell it.
And why did you decide to take this turnkey approach? Like, why did you make these properties? Because you could have just flipped them and took quick cash, right?
Yes, I mean you could obviously do turnkey. You could do regular sales. I enjoy the relationship, and I've built a lot of great relationships with a ton of people I sell to.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you sell to hundreds and hundreds of people, not everyone's buying 10 houses off you, right? But I know some of my guys that are now hitting, since I've started with them, they're going to be hitting 10 plus doors in Akron because of my turnkey sales.
And is that crazy for you to think that some of these people might have their, let's call it retirement passive income, all potentially with properties that you've renovated?
Oh, it's great. It's amazing. I really try to make sure that, I give them the best product. Any investor, I try to make sure they get the best product I can possibly provide. Whether that's updates, location, understanding of it. And someone's bought 10 plus properties or is going to have, he requested some today. So someone's going to have 10 plus properties. I can then even have even more in-depth conversations. I'm like, hey, you got one in Rittman, you got two in Highland Square, you got one over here, kind of like in that Kenmore area. You got one in North Hill now. I can rank all of his areas for him and tell him where that house is in terms of what his other properties are. And then he understands it a little better because now he has like a deal flow of where all of his ratings are if you're going to rate the houses. Because you could rate the different areas of Cleveland or Akron immediately.
Easily, yeah.
Immediately. And you're like, yeah, they're close, but this one's just a step above.
Yeah. And why did you decide to go so deep in the Summit County, Akron area? Because I've seen a lot of investors where they do, let's say, 2 flips here, then 2 flips here, and then they're in all these different markets. What advantage is it giving you to stay in your own market?
When I'm at my office in Barberton, I can get to any house I own within 20 minutes.
So speed is a big one.
Speed's a big one. And then just making it an easy deal flow. Because, your contractor that's working in Canton does not want to drive to your house in East Cleveland.
True.
He might, but he doesn't.
And that might be a red flag if he does.
Because he has no work in the area.
Yeah.
The other thing I also do is if you always have a house for me, you become definitely loyal because I'm always there.
Yeah.
There's always work in the summer. There's always work during the year. But like retail work slows down in that holiday Christmas time a little bit. So it makes it tough to always have consistent work. But the crews that are consistently loyal to me, I make sure they have a house in the winter.
Yeah. Because you've opened up about your December freakouts to me before.
Yeah.
What's the December freakout?
The December freakout is, can't find any houses. Can't move them because it's wintertime. But December 15th to January 15th is always a slow time. And then January 15th happens. I sell 10 houses. I'm like, oh, crap. I need more houses now.
Yeah. So this year, I'm curious where your head was at because I think it was Bo connected us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you first started the year, what were your goals with how many houses you were going to buy?
I was just going to try to do another 100.
And where are we at right now? Today is also, for everyone watching, this is mid to end of July.
Yeah, I think at the halfway mark, we were at 56 houses sold and like 83 houses purchased. I should have brought in my secretary. She keeps me up to date on all the numbers. Yeah. She's also the notary, so she stamps everything and does everything. But I think we're at the 60s, low 60s.
Yeah.
So hundreds are going to happen, but I don't know if we're going to be the 120 to 140.
Yeah, to be determined.
To be determined, but we're definitely going to be 6 or 100 plus, 3 figures.
Yeah. And what was it? Yeah. What was it like after, let's say, a month or two, we started making this content and you actually had people be like, oh, I saw a video. Was it weird?
I had someone the other day that was buying a turnkey rental off me. And she's like, hey, I've been stalking you on Instagram. I am going to come into town and follow up on everything you said.
So is it, because this is something I was talking on the previous podcast about. It's weird how many silent watchers there are. Like, did this lady, did you ever notice, like a post or comment on anything?
You're in my social media more than I am.
All right, guys. Steve is pretty good at delegating. I'll give him credit for that. But this is what I noticed. There's a lot of people that will watch from afar.
Wait, my wife, we were laying in bed the other day, and she's like, "Hey, did you watch what I sent you on Instagram?" Wasn't even opened.
Open her reels, man. Come on.
I didn't know.
Alex, I'm helping you out here, okay? He's got to open the reels.
It's been like 2 or 3 days.
That's a love signal. She's sending you a reel. You're supposed to watch it, give some feedback.
Oh, it was about going to watch. North Olmsted has like kid-friendly movie theaters with reclining chairs and stuff. All about it. She's all excited because the 15, 16-year-old month start watching a little TV. You know, Miss Rachel and all those other good things. Don't even turn it on. You're not ready.
I'm not ready for that. When I have kids, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's like mesmerizing.
You like,
She like overpronounces all her words in your life.
You're a fan?
No.
Sounds like you're a fan.
No, it's just when you get up at 6 a.m. and you're not quite up and you could just plop him right here and you could do one of these until 7 and then you're like, oh, okay, let's play. And then the TV. We don't watch a lot of TV. My wife is totally into educational time play, no noise on toys. It's all, so they have to create their own thoughts, a lot of wood toys. You know, so
I'm curious, you two are both teachers. Like, how do you try to raise your kids? Because I think my mom's opened up a lot about teaching over the last 20 years has become very teach to the test. It's less about the actual human skills. It's a lot more about pass this, state requirement. Do you try to raise your kids in a way where they kind of learn for themselves, or like how has teaching affected how you think you'll parent?
I think comparing my wife and myself as teachers is not fair. If you're calling her a teacher, you should just call me like a room filler.
So your wife as a teacher, you as a room filler who does real estate until you get fired.
Yeah, literally. I mean, she goes above and beyond. She's read all of the books, all the mom books on, how you should talk to them, getting down to their level, acknowledging their feelings so that, they kind of understand. And
You don't raise a school shooter.
yeah. They're like, you're upset right now. And, you talk to them on your level so they kind of get it. And that's been, I try to follow along. She did get me the book and I didn't read it. Sad confession. But I do follow her role on things to do, and she does give me feedback on ways to talk to the kids and different things. But yeah, we do all like the matching games, the number counting, the colors, and just the little finger movements with all the different toys where they got to put this through here and pull that. And there are toys. There's a word for it that I don't know, but there's toys and they're made in a way so that kids develop those motor skills and whatnot.
And do you worry, because I've seen a lot of the iPad parents where instead of you doing something as engaging as that, it's, hey, here, watch the iPad. Do you guys think your kid, you're obviously raising kids in probably the most technologically advanced time we've ever been in, right?
I mean, we try to stay off the iPad, obviously, for for taking a plane trip or something like that, or a long car ride. But we pull out 10 toys before we get to the iPad.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been our way about doing it. And I mean, just to watch them struggle and do it.
They need that.
Yeah, when you could just be like, okay, done.
Yeah.
It's not, you just robbed them of that experience.
So I asked this in another video. Who is going to be your first kid that buys a property? Right now, what's the bet?
I could send you 100 videos of my kids saying, I bought 6 houses today.
And they're showing no receipts, no HUD statements.
He showed no HUD statements. He always says, he gets home from his daycare and he's like, I gotta go to work. I gotta buy houses. He always talks about buying houses, and he's a worker, he says.
So if they want to get let's say they're 17 or 18, they're like, Dad, this college just doesn't seem like what it used to be, and they want to get into real estate. Is that something you'll encourage, or do you think that maybe going the entrepreneurial route super young is dangerous?
I'm totally want them to get some sort of educational certification, degree, something to fall back on.
Yeah.
I don't think real estate's for everyone, and I don't know if you know that at 18 or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm always encouraging them to do real estate. I know this will go against every guru's thing. I think a degree or some certification is good for the kid.
Yeah. So do you think that, what age were you when you had technically bought your first property?
23.
And did that feel entrepreneurial, or did that just feel like a right financial investment?
It felt like a smart financial investment. I did enjoy telling people I was a landlord. I felt like I was at the bar.
Hashtag landlord.
Hashtag I got it. Picking up chicks. Yeah, I'm a landlord.
So you think that you're going to encourage real estate, but you think there's a safety in having something where they could go get a job?
Yeah, I think being able to get a job and bring in high income helps accelerate your real estate stuff as well.
And what if they said, hey, Dad, I'm tired of you writing assignment fees to all these random nobodies that aren't in our family. I want to do it.
I'd be more than happy to help them.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to so many wholesalers, and I feel like I learn a little bit about their businesses. I would be able to do it.
Yeah.
Do I want to drop my next 3 months into learning all the ins and outs? They've probably taught me enough to be dangerous to myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Just major distraction.
Yeah, major distraction from what gets it done. So I feel like, yeah, my kid's like, oh, I want to work on acquisitions. I think that's probably one of the best skills you can get. It's a form of sales.
Yeah.
Right? It truly is. You have to build a relationship, and you have to want them to, that seller has to want to sell you the house at a discount, and they're going to need to know they're selling it at a discount.
And you have to do that in a way where it's like, let's just call it has to be morally clean. Like, you have to build a relationship. Yeah. And that was something that I remember Kip shouted you out when we first met, is he was like, there's not many guys like Steve that will sit on the back of a truck with a homeowner for several hours to understand their story when he's trying to buy a home.
Sitting in Kenmore on the back of a truck with a guy named Dean, sat there and shot the shit for, I don't know, a half hour, 45 minutes.
So do you think like if you had to dial in all your...
Well, he wasn't even a wholesaler. He was a homeowner.
Yeah, you were talking straight to the source.
Yeah, he messaged me about something, and yeah, anyways. So we bought 3 of his houses. And he said, next year I'm going to sell you 3 more.
All right, hey, 3 more next year.
I have a relationship with another large landlord like that in Akron. He's like, hey, sold this much this year. I want to sell this much next year. He's like, I get all these letters in the mail. He's like, I don't want to talk to anyone but you. If we can make it work, let's go.
And what do you think is the perception people have of Steve? Like, if you're in real estate, how do you think people perceive you?
In real estate?
Yeah.
Does he really buy that many houses?
Yeah. I mean, it is. Like, seriously, like when I was on that call with you and I said, how many did you do? In my head, 30 to 50 is what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah, I feel like even when I say the number, it doesn't feel real.
I mean, we did a video for everyone watching this. We spent 2 hours to make one video, and it was every house that Steve had touched in Barberton. And I think when we went out, the goal was, 56, we thought the number was?
Yeah, that was like 50 or 60, yeah.
And it turned out to be 78 video files, in which 3 of them were not a house, but within the other 75, there were multiple where Steve was pointing at 2 houses at the same time. So what do you think is the skill, if you had to dial everything you have in, like what is the one skill that's got you this success?
I think relationships.
The people?
Yeah, I think the people. And even and the relationships are, sometimes you give into a relationship and don't get anything out, but it's trying to make relationships with people, whether that's a wholesaler, a landlord, a whatever.
Yeah, because I remember when we were at RubeCon, I don't think you knew really much of anything about me other than this guy posts videos and I see them go out. But you looked at me and you said, all right, my turn to ask questions. What the hell are your goals for the next 5 years? Yeah. And it was funny because I do work with a lot of people, like realtors specifically. And I'll give Mike Magno a shout out. I had worked with realtors for 3 years before one of them even asked me, like, hey, are you trying to buy a home soon? Yeah, Mike was the first one in January.
Realtors?
Mike Magno was the first one in mid-January.
You're prime target. You're mid-20s, yet you're successful. You're living in a rental. You're going to have to buy a home here soon, right? That's the next chronological step.
And Mike was the first one. But I was giving you the compliment that you were one of the first people that actually was like, hey, what are your goals? Not related to me, just like, what are you trying to do?
Right.
And I appreciate that. So I think that's definitely something that, yeah, from an outside looking in, I think a lot of times when people are like, oh, I want to wholesale, or like we both know one of my buddies who wants to wholesale. And he's like, oh, well, I'm going to have to talk to people and I'm going to have to learn about their situation. It's like, hey, no shit.
And you're going to have to follow up several times before they give you a yes.
Yeah.
That person that hasn't paid their taxes in 9 years
is not going to call you back.
Is necessarily not in a rush, and they're not going to be the most reliable. So you're going to have to hunt, and you're going to have to be quick. Yeah. Like I always say, if you don't get there within 10 minutes, the deal's gone. And that proved to be true the other day. You posted the video, and someone sent me a deal. I was like, okay, I'll hit it on the way home. Didn't hit it on the way home. She gone.
You lost it.
I lost the deal.
Or you getting Subway?
I haven't had Subway in a long time, actually.
Okay. Yeah, because this ties me to the other question I was going to ask you. What has been the shift you've made outside of real estate recently?
Just trying to eat healthier and work out.
Do you think the speed tour was a wake-up call?
The speed tour got me.
So for everyone that doesn't know, I did speed you running up the stairs. I gave you a little 2x speed for this.
I needed a 4x. Jeez.
So what have you done recently to make this shift?
Yeah. So I've been working out pretty regularly. I think I'm 7 weeks in, and I've probably worked out 6 days a week for the past 7 weeks.
So what was the sneak that got you? Because everyone always hears there's like lifestyle creep, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily always mean financial danger. Like, what was your lifestyle creep? Was it just comfort?
I was just so engulfed that I thought every deal had to be there every second of every waking day. And I would easily push my workout. Anything. I'd push any kind of commitment to working out and do the real estate activity.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean physical activity, although I did fall through some steps the other day. But I already started to work out at that point, so we're good.
So now that you've been doing this consistently, you've still had time for real estate.
Yeah, because I'm doing the workouts at like 6:30 in the morning.
And how has your brain operated differently?
Well, I'm not drinking at all hardly, so I think, as you say, you're always clear, you're not, foggy or whatever after the day you drink. So, I mean, yeah, I'm more, not that I ever wasn't with it. I don't know.
Yeah, because I remember one of the jokes you made to me when you were like, "Oh, you don't drink." You're like, "Man, you must wake up feeling amazing." And I was like, "Well, some days, yeah, but."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm always pretty quick, sharp, on it, with it. Remember pretty much anything. Like, you can ask me stuff from like 3-4 years ago about a house, and
You remember it.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's the interesting thing too that I said to you the other day is like it wasn't like you were in any sort of like bad condition, right? Like your business was still going well, you have a great relationship with your wife and family, but there was this internal knowledge of like I'm not the Steve I used to be.
Well, yeah, I'm not 240 running over people in the middle of the football field carrying the football. Like, it was always kind of something that always hurt me mentally, right? Things that bother you that people say. When I say I played football, they'd be like, "Oh, what did you play, guard, tackle?" I was like, "No, I played running back. I carried the ball." There was games I had over 47 carries in a game. In a high school playoff game, I had 47 carries
So for
as
everyone
a
out there,
sophomore.
so you were not a guard or a tackle.
No, I played running back. I carried the ball.
No defensive end from time to time.
No, I played linebacker. So,
Yeah.
but I mainly carried the ball, so I did.
And so now that you have more of this, let's call it time commitment, where you're doing more real estate, you have the kids now. How do you think you're going to reintroduce football? Like, do you think you'll be a coach again?
I coached T-ball this year, as you saw in a previous video.
I did see, yeah.
Yeah, I love football. I'll go coach. I'll whatever. So I coached 8 years of middle school football when I was teaching.
Yeah.
I slightly thought about going back as a volunteer because the 4 guys I coached with are still there, or the 3 guys I coached with are still there, plus the new guy took my position. Good guy. Not like took my position. I left.
Yeah.
But they joked about me coming back. And I was like, oh man, I could practice from like 3 to 4:30 every day.
And for people who maybe didn't grow up in Ohio, like what is Friday Night Lights like in Ohio when you are actually the star running back?
Oh, it's adrenaline pumping, like rocking. I mean, it's
most of the whole town will go to the game.
yeah. I mean, the games are sold out. You're 5,000 plus people in a stadium. Everyone's screaming and yelling, and like everyone knows the next morning, like or the Monday after the football game, like, oh man, great game, Steve. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I was my junior year, going into my junior year, they have the sports preview in the Akron Beacon Journal. For Summit County, it was me holding the football on the front page. So like, I don't know. I mean, I really was like, I lived, breathed, ate football all year round.
And so you miss it a little bit. You miss that.
That pump,
Yeah.
right? The adrenaline pump.
The air's a little different on a Friday night, like the first fall game.
A little crisp.
I would say, let me think how I want to ask this. Do you think that in the future, did you have a coach that made you like it? Like, when you were playing football, would you shout out a certain coach?
I mean, I loved playing from the time, as soon as you could sign me up for football, I was there and I was ready to tackle the kid. I was ready to hit the kid. I didn't care. I loved all my coaches growing up, but like, if you were the athlete that would do anything you ever asked, and I was athletic and big and strong, wouldn't you have a good relationship with that kid?
Yeah.
You could be like, say, Steve, we're going to do 100 down and backs, and I need you to lead the kids. Okay, coach.
Yeah, whatever you need.
I'm going to hop right in and do it, and I might die, but I'm going to get up and keep going. But it didn't matter. I would do whatever because I wanted to be the best and I loved it. And, that's just what it was. And from the time it was conditioning for Pee Wee football to playing high school and college football.
And so do you think, let's look 5-10 years ahead from now, you keep growing the real estate side, more flips are happening, more people are getting these turnkey assets. What do you imagine doing when you have more free time?
I don't know. Keep hanging out with my kids. I like real estate, so I don't feel like
You don't have this desire to like stop working, right?
no, everyone wants to retire and whatever. Yeah, I want to retire, but like,
Do you want to retire or do you want to choose when you work?
that's it. Maybe choose more when I work. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard that. Like, I did this podcast. It was probably in February.
That's a better term for what I want, I think.
Yeah, because I was asking this guy. I was like, "How do you think about long-term plans?" And he's like, "What is this? Some soft like you want to retire shit?" And I was like, "No, just." He's like, "You probably want to choose when you work."
Yeah.
And that's a different because like for you, there's crews that depend on Steve's properties. You've made all these relationships with wholesalers that go, Steve's probably my number one buyer. So like, why throw that away, right?
I mean, you were in the truck the other day. The guy said, I'm the only person he wholesales to.
And he's going to start paying for marketing, I heard too.
He's going to start paying
just for your deals.
Just for my deals. And you got to remember, this is a guy that has accrued assets debt-free of $6-7 million. And he's wholesaling to Steve Yoak. Any lead he doesn't take down, he calls me and he's like, if you don't buy it, I just let it go. Because if you're not buying it and I'm not buying it, it's not a good deal.
And for everyone listening, how much did you pay him in assignment fees last month?
In 3 deals, I paid him over $100,000.
So that's over, like, not saying you do this every month with him,
No.
but that is $1 million a year pace.
1.2 plus.
Yeah. So for everyone out there who maybe, let's say, isn't necessarily in real estate, but they're like, I want to start making money in real estate, and their goal is to either be an agent or wholesale, how should they approach a guy like Steve?
I mean, just bring the deals, right? I mean, that's all I really want is good deals. And if you need zip codes, you need buy boxes. My buy box isn't hard. It's 900 square feet.
4
plus.
walls. Driveway optional.
Driveway optional. Back doors optional. Whatever. Yeah. Roof optional. I've been trying to get away. Actually, I turned away a heavy lift the other day. The margin were there, but I was like, I'm going to be here for 7-8 months.
Too stressful.
Yeah, I was like, there's so many other deals. I just walked away.
So one question I want to leave you with, because I think we've talked about this off camera, but there are a lot of guys who say they want to start a business or they want to be in real estate. What advice do you think you have for them if they're afraid to just pull the trigger?
I think before you just randomly pull the trigger, you can't be like, I quit, pull the trigger. I would side hustle it for as long as you can.
So taking action, like how do they get from 0 to 1? You encourage, hey, maybe start this as a side hustle,
100%
allocate some hours.
Yeah. Say, hey, 2 hours a day, an hour a day. I mean, I can think of terrible activities people spend an hour or 2 hours a day doing, right? Video games, anything. And maybe you use that to decompress, whatever. But if you could spend 10 hours a week on an activity as a complete side hustle.
So if someone wanted to wholesale a deal to Steve, and let's say, what would that be? Just about 2 hours a night, I'm dialing these leads that I purchased.
So find leads so you can look up distressed house leads and you can get addresses and then you use a skip tracer to get the numbers to those people. Once you get the numbers, just call them and have a genuine conversation. The reason that guy was able to get such high assignment fees was because he talked to the homeowner, figured out their issue, and solved that problem, right? And he created a relationship. He built the rapport. And that's why his assignment, he doesn't wholesale 100 houses a month.
Yeah.
He wholesales 2 or 3, but they're home run slam dunk deals.
So do you think for everyone out there, the tip is you just need to start practicing? Because I think a lot of people want to get rich quick scheme, right?
No one's gonna be good at anything they start off with, right? They say you need 10,000 hours to be a master at whatever you do. I mean, I still get humbled on a regular basis.
Yeah,
it happens. Like I bought a house the other day, and then 2 days later they had a meeting to put it on the demo list. I didn't know about it any way, shape, or form. My guys were there landscaping it and found out it was on the demo list. Thankfully, I have that good relationship. They called me and let me know.
Yeah. So they need to get out there. They need to start taking just imperfect action.
Yeah, just get out there and do it. I mean, there's no way you're going to be great at it, but worst case scenario, I always tell people, like, and this happened last month. I said, hey, if you think you got a deal, set up a visit. I'll meet you there. My project manager will meet you there. We'll walk the property. We'll figure out what we need for rehab, and I'll be like, hey, here's your max allowable offer. So if I can pay you 60, you need to be somewhere less than 60, and you can keep the rest.
And so you don't care if they make 20, 30, 40. Your goal is just, hey, I need my number.
You saw the $40K assignment fee on my HUD.
It was a little chunky.
The assignment fee was more than the house purchase.
So the opportunity is out there. You wouldn't say that real estate is too crowded.
No, I'd say the quickest way to make money in real estate is definitely wholesaling. Because it's immediate. As soon as the house closes, you get paid.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think it's definitely a need and a service in real estate. And it's tough, it's a grind, but it teaches you how to evaluate houses, talk to sellers, right? And those are two major things in anything you're going to do, right? If you can find deals and evaluate the deal, you could then rent it. You could then flip it yourself, right?
So it's the gateway in.
I think it's definitely a gateway. And some people never get past the gateway and stay in that because they get really good at it and they think that's their niche. And that's completely okay.
Because they're making good money.
They're making good money. And if you enjoy doing it, it's sales based. I mean, that's all it is,
Yeah. So for everyone watching this, if they want to start working with Steve, what are all the ways someone could work with Steve Yoak?
You could wholesale me a deal. You could say, hey, there's a house for sale on the MLS. Go get it. I'll pay you that way too. You could, if your neighbor wants to sell their house, you could connect me with them. I'll still pay you and you don't have to do anything. Just give me their number and their address, right? That's fair. You could work for me in the sense of a contractor, yes, a sub in like a specialty, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. We have maintenance men as too that work for me hourly. We got people at the office, secretarial or unit turns or leasing agent.
And then what do you provide if someone's out of state, but they've heard Akron's a great place to invest?
Yeah, so turnkey rentals. I own Akron Turnkey. So we provide is, hey, here's a property. It's going to be fully renovated. And you got to know the difference between your turnkey styles, right? Some people consider turnkey, it's rented, you're cash flowing. Everything can be old as could be. Or I sell premium turnkeys. And what that means is all the mechanicals have 10 years of life plus. So if your roof's older than 15 years, we replace it. So no like 3-tab shingles. Your furnace is older than 10, we replace it. Hot water tank's older than 5, we replace it. We always throw new kitchens, new bath, flooring, paint, lights, cover plates, switches, outlets. Always make sure that's new because those are just basic things. If the windows are like old wood windows, we're not trying to like reattach the rope that was in them to get them to work. We put in new vinyl replacements.
And then do they have to manage them if they buy it or no?
No, so we turn that over to my uncle's property management company. They handle all of it. We have a great working relationship. So a lot of times what we'll do is after we finish inspections and appraisals, they'll start to look for a tenant before closing so we can get someone in there immediately so you can be cash flowing off the rip. So that's always a huge, huge thing. Is like, oh, how do I know this is going to rent? And what I say is I said, go on Zillow and tell me what you think of my rent estimate. And they're like, I think I can always get more because you can. But I always try to project numbers lower than what's out there so that you can rent trap people. And what I mean by that is if you're $50 below market and your product you're giving them is at market or above, that tenant can never move and find a better house.
Yeah.
So they're getting a top of the market product at just slightly below market pricing.
So you're also helping with affordable housing, I'm hearing.
You're gonna be killed out here. I'm gonna get shot like Trump, dude. Come on. Oh man. Yeah. No. I guess you could say Akron is affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
Not in the sense that it's rent controlled or anything like that, but just it's affordable housing. I mean, we're talking $1,200 rents. So I mean, typically from 11 to 14.
Yeah.
So that's affordable.
And you mentioned you have an uncle who runs property management. Is this like some rich guy in California or is he local?
He's local.
So you can actually get a hold of him, and if something goes wrong with the property.
He has full staff. So I think there's 4 people in office, a couple leasing agents, and hourly maintenance techs that work on a staff every day. So there's always the availability to talk to someone. It's not there's no VAs, there's no AI that you're going to talk to some robot and hopefully they translate it correctly.
There's a real person on the line.
There's a real person on the line. There's no like There's not even a directory for this person.
It just goes straight to the office.
Straight to the office. Everyone's phone rings.
All right. Well, Steve, it's officially been an hour of not checking your phone. And that is it, guys. All right. Thanks for watching, and we will have another episode next week.